You ever walked into a dealership and thought to yourself, they got one up over me right now. I'm gonna get screwed. Well, that's actually probably true, but not for the reason that you might think. I don't think any dealership really has bad intentions. The problem ends up being that when you go in uninformed, well, they just bring out this little contract right here, and well, if you don't know what any of these terms mean, then you can't know if you're getting a good deal or not. So it'll always seem as if you're getting screwed. And sometimes you might just be. Whenever you finance a car, of course, there's a little bit of legal business going on. And the contract, well, that's the head honcho of all the legal stuff. But see, without your signature, nobody wins. But without the correct knowledge, well, only one side wins. And guess which side that is? Oh, yeah, not yours. It's similar to a casino. If you don't know what you're doing when you walk in, well then the house wins 10 out of 10 times. What's going on, my beautiful people? My name is Mark Beneke, a proud member of the Westland family. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down to you what an in-house contract looks like so that you know exactly what to be wary for and where you need to look to make sure that everyone is being a winner. And if you're really good, well, you might actually be able to make sure that you win more. Like magicians, salespeople will typically show you the best of the best, but the real illusion is actually happening on the other side of that paper. So make sure you're following along right now with laser focus. Not like Homelander laser focus. It's a little bit more brutal. For this video, I'm going to end up being the salesperson and you're going to be Sam Appleseed. All right, so let's head from the top. This here is what a typical contract would look like with all dealerships. There might be a couple of differences here and there, but typically they all follow this contract. Now at the top, you'll see your name and then your co-buyer and then the preferred dealership, which obviously it should be ours. Make sure that your name and your address are spelled correctly to the T. While the contract itself may not be as important for this, when you get your 262 or your ROS, meaning anything to transfer over that goes directly to the DMV, all of your information has to be exact as you want it. Sam Appleseed may not be too pleased when they get shipped out to his neighbor's house. After you've made sure that the dealership can actually spell, let's go down to the information of the car. Straight across, you'll see the year, make, model, mileage of the vehicle, the VIN, whether it's new or used. And then you'll also notice that it'll say whether it's a personal loan to you or if it's a commercial or business loan. It's very unlikely that if you are purchasing from an in-house dealership that you're gonna get any kind of business or commercial loan. Now, the more important stuff, because hopefully you already know your name and the vehicle that you're buying, I hope, right? Do you? The fees, of course. First you'll see is the APR. This stands for the annual percentage rate. This is a little bit different than interest, but typically a lot of people end up using it simultaneously. We're not gonna get into the differences in this video. Here in California, it could be as low as 0% if you're getting an interest-free loan, or it could be as high as 29.99%. Your state might actually make it a little bit different. At a traditional dealership or finance company, typically it's going to be based off of your credit score and your credit history. The worse your credit is, the higher your APR will be. Sorry. It's just the nature of the beast. At an in-house dealership, this tends to be a flat percentage that you get charged. It doesn't change for you or the next person or the next person. It doesn't matter if you have a 300 credit score or an 800 credit score. It's a flat percentage. Now, if you go next to that APR, you're gonna see finance charge. This is the amount of total interest that you're gonna end up paying throughout the term of the loan. But here's secret number one. If you have an E next to those numbers, then you're in luck. That means that you have an open contract. Kind of like an open marriage or an open relationship, it allows you to go outside of the terms that are laid out there. Man, that was a bad example. The beauty of an open contract is that if you decide to pay extra on your payments, you can actually reduce the overall amount of interest that you end up paying throughout the term of the loan. It's open, so it means if you pay it off faster, you reduce the amount of interest. However, if you pay it off slower, it also means that you pay more in interest. Now, if you don't have that E in there, then fucking run! I'm totally kidding. It's fine. It's fine. But it does mean that there are no variations to it. So if you do end up paying it off sooner, nothing changes. The terms are there. the terms are held up. So after you've glossed over that number, let's go over to the line of credit next to it, the total amount financed. This is a combination of the selling price, the standard fees, minus the down payment. This number does not include your interest, but the total, including the interest, is known as the total of payments. So it's pretty much the amount of your payment multiplied by the total number of payments that you have, or this number plus this number. And the final box is the total of payments plus your down payment, which is the total amount that you would end up paying for the vehicle if all of your payments came in on time. Now let's keep going down. This section right here shows you your initial payment plan. Now, by the way, this should never be the first time that you find out about your payments. If it is, then something is horribly wrong and you need to stop what you're doing right now. Anyway, let's assume that that's not the case. If you gave a down payment and you're supposed to come back with a deferred down payment, then it's going to be listed right here in these boxes. Now the box below that refers to the length of the loan or the total amount of payments. For example, if you're on a 3-year loan and you're paying monthly, I don't know, like more than 10 payments or something. Yeah, that's right, 36. 36, that's what you should be saying. Now this section right here is the payment amount. Now actually, I lied. If you had that 3-year term, you'll most likely see a 35, and then right underneath, it'll say one final payment of, and then an amount. It's there in case your smaller payment, or it could be the exact same amount. Keep everything flush throughout the term of the loan, and then that last payment might end up being like $367 or something like that. It's just rounding things out. Moving down, standard fees. The first number you'll see is the total cash price. Below that, you're going to see documentation fees because, well, all that paperwork costs money. Someone's got to pay for it. Below that, you'll see the emissions testing fee, which is known as smog here in California. The next section will be theft deterrent devices. Just to give you an example, let's just say that you purchased a GPS service or maybe a missile launcher. This is where it would show you the cost of the missile launcher. But they should only be there if you requested it. If it's there without your consent and you really don't want it, then just ask them to remove it. Below that, you're going to see surface protection items, another optional feature if you want it. You might know these as like paint protection packages or things like that. You know, you're pumping gas and accidentally back up into the pole. Instead of having to take it to the shop and pay for everything yourself, you just hit them up and they come out, do a little bit of Picasso while you sit there and eat your Cheerios. But to be honest, I really don't recommend these products at all. Like, if it's something that you feel that you would like, great, get it, but they're kind of a waste of money. Just grab a bucket of paint and a brush and it's the same shit. Now, if you're getting an EV, they have a bunch of new stuff for it, but you will get charged additional fees for it. Right here, right there, everywhere. You can't just expect to come out with something brand new and revolutionary and Uncle Sam not come along and get his cut. Well, that comes usually in the form of additional sales taxes, which is the next section that we'll be looking at. Now, obviously, depending on the state that you live in, it might go up or down. But I can tell you, California Uncle Sam, whoo, he must have a big old belly. Yeah, we get taxed pretty heavily here in California. The next section will have to do with a lot of optional products. And remember, they are optional, meaning extended service contracts, whether they're provided through the dealer directly or a third-party vendor. Don't ever feel pressured to buy a service contract either. If you like it, cool. But if you don't, just tell them no. Unless, of course, you're buying a Chrysler PT Cruiser, then get it. No questions asked. But if you're buying a PT Cruiser, then you probably should be checking yourself into a mental institution. In that same section, they also have this little area right here, which states that if you have any unpaid part of your lease left, that they will add it right there. And then you can just pay the rest of it in installments. Because what happens is they will actually go and fork over the money themselves, only to have you pay them back over time. After all that has been sorted, then you're moving on to the gap coverage. This is another optional fee, but I highly recommend that you do not look at it as optional. Unless you've already pretty much like paid off the entire car completely with the down payment that you put, then a gap is pretty much the only way that you're going to protect yourself in case something ends up happening. You have no idea how many of our customers have actually taken off the vehicle and in the next month or 2 months, they get into a car accident and the car's totaled out. What do you think happens in that moment? That the insurance company comes along and says, oh, well, I guess we're just gonna pay off the entire car regardless of what you owe. Typically, when you're that early in a contract, you don't have very much equity. Equity simply means just however much you own of the vehicle. And since you're at the beginning of your loan, you don't own too much of it. So when they come along and tell you, hey, I know that you owe $10,000, but all I could pay you out for is $6,000, well, guess who's responsible for the other $4,000 if you don't have gap? A gap covers that entire thing for you. It's beautiful. You don't have to pay for a car that you don't own anymore. The next section is going to cover the contract cancellation option agreement. Then it gets more into the government side of the fees. Registration, license fees, the California tire fee. Now these tend to be estimated because there's really no surefire way to know exactly how much the DMV is going to end up charging. There's also the smog certification fee, which should come out to about $8. $8.25. All of these costs together come up to the total cash price. Now we jump down just a little bit and you see the down payment and deferred down payments. If there are any deferred down payments, of course, or down payments at all. So you take the total cash price and reduce any down payment that you put on it, plus the deferred down payment, and boom! That number right there is the total amount that you'll be financing. Now let's go ahead and hop back up the page a little bit. But before that, there is a little secret that I want to share with you. It just requires for you to make sure that you hit the and then I can really clue you guys in. Now this right here is the statement of insurance. This should only be marked if you are purchasing insurance directly from the dealership, which you do not need to do. Now the dealership might actually recommend some other insurance companies and have all of the paperwork sent over to them and you sign it directly through the dealership, but it is not their insurance company. That's a little bit different, and that will not go in that statement of insurance. The next section right below is going to have everything to do with a gap. This will typically give you a little bit of information about it and also the amount of time that it'll end up covering you. Hopefully it's the entire term of the loan, but some companies might be a little bit different. Below that is going to be the section covering any service contracts that you ended up purchasing, how much you're being charged for each service contract, the length of time that it covers you for, and the company that you're purchasing it from. Now, again, this should be blank unless you're purchasing a PT Cruiser. Oh, shame on you, Chrysler. Shame on you. Now, if we skip down a little bit, this is going to be talking about your trade-in. If you are trading something in, of course. It'll have all of your car's information plus the amount that the dealership ended up agreeing to give you for it. Now the secret little part right here is showing you whether there is negative or positive equity in the vehicle. Positive equity means that they are paying you more than what is left owed on the vehicle. So in other words, it almost acts as a down payment. The remaining balance of that can be reduced directly from the total cash price. But if you're in the negative side of equity, well, that's a different story. Let's say that you still owe $9 grand on that 2012 Corolla. And well, you want this sexy ass 4Runner. So, well, the dealership actually agreed to pay you $7,000 for your Corolla, which means that, well, you still owe $2 grand. So the dealership is gonna assume responsibility for that $2,000, pay off whoever you still owe that money to, but you still owe them. My personal recommendation, if you're in negative equity, never trade your car in, just tough it out. You'd just be putting yourself in a massive financial burden that, believe me, is just gonna perpetuate next time. You'd be surprised how many of our customers just end up getting into the slippery slope of constantly wanting to trade out of cars. And guess what? They just keep adding more and more and more to their overall balance. Eventually that's gotta give. You're gonna always stay in debt, and frankly, I don't want that for you. Hell, I wouldn't want that for me. Now, a second tip, make sure that before you trade in your car, you know exactly how much it's worth. There is a chance that the dealership could be lowballing you. If you do your research ahead of time, you'll know exactly how much it's worth, and so when they give you an offer, you can always let them know, no, I want more. And here's why I want more. A very quick KBB search will give you a rough idea of how much your vehicle could be worth private party and trading in. And to stack on top of that, just go on Craigslist or maybe Facebook Marketplace and just see how much they're selling for. Now, if you want a real tip, try to hold off on telling them that you're trading in a car. Once you get to the point where they ask you, are you gonna be trading in a car? Then let them know, yeah, I plan on it. They're gonna end up asking you, how much do you want for it? Remember that number that I told you to have in mind? Well, start high, like really high. You're welcome. Oh, well, what's the agreement to arbitrate, you might ask? Yeah, this is actually the most confusing part for the majority of people. It's actually pretty simple, but it just sounds a lot more complicated. It's essentially a safety net for both parties involved. As I'm sure you know, litigation can be really fucking expensive. So instead, you have this agreement to arbitrate. What it means is that instead of going to litigation you have the chance of going to arbitration first. Let's just say that you come along and you try to settle things with me and we're just not able to come up to a conclusion together. So instead of involving attorneys, judges, all those expensive ass motherfuckers, you know, the ones that really want the money, you get a third party involved, an arbitrator, to help us solve the matter. He's basically just a retired judge that comes along, hears the case of both parties, and then makes a decision for us. I definitely know a few people that might need this type of service. Seb?
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman.
Talk to your mom about
Did you know that you have rights?
Anyway, let's go on to the next important point. This box right here shows how the contract can be changed. And considering that in California there is no return or exchange policy, once it's signed, it's done. It's set in stone, in writing, in blood. However, there is one way that it can be changed. And that's if the lender and the customer end up coming together and deciding to change things in writing. And that could be if they decide to refinance you in order to get you a lower interest rate, or maybe extend the contract to get you a lower payment. But both parties need to come to that agreement and get it in writing. As you can see, no oral changes are binding. So no matter what the salesperson tells you, like if he tells you, oh, you got a 10-year warranty on providing it to you, if it's not in writing, it doesn't mean shit. The next section is the seller's right to cancel, which is very important. The seller reserves the right to cancel the contract within 10 days. Usually this is reserved if they cannot secure financing for you. So let's just say that you gave them a ton of information, they reviewed everything, and they thought it was cut and dry. They gave you the car, you took off, you gave the down payment. But then the lenders started reviewing it and they realized none of it checks out. Maybe you said that you made $3,500, but in reality your pay stub shows that you only made $25. They can no longer finance you under those terms because you might not be able to actually afford the car. So a suggestion here, when you're doing the application yourself, make sure that you don't muddy any of the numbers. Whatever you make, put it down exactly how it is. If anything, be a little bit more conservative. So let's just say you make $3,500, maybe put it down as 34. It's better to be on the safer side, because the last thing that you want is them calling you up and telling you, hey, I need my car back. Now the next section down here refers to insurance. Now nationwide, you have to have at least liability insurance in order to operate a vehicle. However, that's not to say that your lender might not have specific rules for you. As part of the financing terms, they can actually force you to have a specific type of coverage. So for example, full coverage insurance with $100 deductible, $500 deductible, $1,000, it all comes down to what they require. Now, unless you have a fucking beater that's not worth it, then I would highly recommend that you get full coverage insurance, whether you're financing or not. And I would also recommend that you get it with the lowest deductibles that you can find, because a lower deductible means that you would have to pay less when it comes to actually initiating the claim with your insurance company. And that means you get more money back. The next section is the notice to buyer. That's you, Sam Appleseed. Buyer, you copy? Oh, so fucking lame. Oh, man. This is just telling you that you, as the buyer, need to make sure that you're reading the entire contract in full. Did you read it? I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, most people don't. Actually, well, while I don't know the exact percentage, I can almost guarantee you that it's probably less than 1%. And that is exactly why we're making this video. Reading all of this shit is boring as hell. We know. I had to do it myself. Word after word after word. So I just want to save you the trouble, so next time that you're purchasing a car, you only have to skim through it and make sure that you're looking at the important parts. And make sure that you come off as the intelligent, well-versed Don. When in reality, we both know it's just you and I. But at least they won't get anything up over you. Now jumping back to what I mentioned earlier about the no cooling off period. Well, I kind of mentioned the contract cancellation option. California has a no cooling off period, which means once you purchase a vehicle, your purchase is final. But they give you an option that you can purchase in order to go around this. This is where you can purchase the contract cancellation option agreement. This is at an extra charge, of course. You pay the fee, and then they allow you to take the vehicle for the next 2 days up to 250 miles, and if you don't like it, you can return it. No questions asked. But when you do bring it back, they would charge you a restocking fee. And this section right here is essentially just telling you that if you were to have any kind of complaint or any issue with anything that happened, to go to the dealer and try to resolve matters between the both of you. I mean, mistakes are going to be made, whether it's from you or from us. The important part is how we handle them. And that's it. That handles the most important parts of the contract, pretty much like A through Z. Now there are other paperwork that we'll actually end up covering in different videos, but for now, this is the most important part that you need to know about. you're now a legal genius. But there's one more way that you could become a super genius, and that's by dropping me a I thank you in advance. Now, you're never going to be caught out by a contract again. And remember, when you go in, make sure that you read through everything ahead of time. Understand before you sign, and make sure that you fully understand the terms of what you're getting yourself into. And while you're at it, make sure you check out this video down here to inform yourself a little bit more about the buying process. And, well, that's all I got for you now. So thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Okay, bye!